Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the North Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Deliberation Committee Chairman. Can I do apologies for absence first, please?
Yes, we've received apologies from Councillor Radia and Councillor Brightman is substituting.
Any declarations of interest in tonight's matters? No. The minutes of the previous meeting, 19th of June, are in the bundle. Can I take those as agreed? Thank you. I have taken an urgent Part 2 item, an urgent enforcement item, but the Part 1 items are as described in the agenda. There's only one petition item tonight. I'm going to truncate my usual speech because I think the petitioner may be familiar with it, possibly having heard it one or two times or more before. So I will take it that you do understand how the world works here tonight. The rest of the items are non-petition, so there's no speaking rights on those. Okay. I'll do a quick round of introductions and then I think we'll kick off. Voting members tonight, I'll start down on my far right, Councillor Tuckwell, Councillor Brightman, Councillor Hagger, Councillor Higgins, Councillor Flynn, and then going this way, Councillor Oswald, Farley and Councillor Sansapuri. The officer team tonight, I think the highways officer probably won't actually say anything in the end, but I suspect.
I'm here.
I know you're here. Robert Michalski? Michaels. Okay. We'll get there in the end.
Richard Michalski.
Yeah, I know. They make my life complicated these days. I will get there eventually, is the short answer to this. Matt Kalaszewski is Planning Officer. James Roger is the Head of Planning. Liz Penny from Democratic Services. The lawyers come in twos tonight. Dan Egan is providing our legal advice, and Cameron Rose, another planning lawyer, who's sitting in. That's everybody. I'm going to kick off, please, with item 6, which is Hurst Gate End Northwood. This is to discharge a landscaping condition. Matt, could you give us...
Thank you, Chairman. This is Hurst in Northwood. The application seeks to discharge Condition 7 landscaping scheme of a previous permission for various extensions to the dwelling house. In essence, we have an area of what is said to be permeable paving and areas of landscaping around here. This is, for reference, is a TPO tree, an oak tree. We have received a petition in objection, and I understand the petitioner will be speaking shortly. Also, this has been assessed by the council's tree officer and landscaping officers, and they have deemed them to be acceptable. I'll just point members to the addendum sheet. Firstly, I'll just say that the second last paragraph on item 6 is actually incorrect. That hasn't just misquoted the objector, so if we can strike that off. The main issue I think that the objector has, and we'll speak about shortly, is whether the paving is permeable or not. Now, this is actually, since the application came in, these works have actually been carried out. I think we have, but there's the photos here of the paving itself and planting. And there was a suggestion that the paving might not be permeable. However, our landscape officer has looked at it and believes it to be permeable. The details say it's permeable, and that's what we're assessing. Again, if you were to read the addendum sheet, as we said, it was considered that members could approve the detailed submission and request an enforcement report to be submitted to a future meeting if you're concerned about just how permeable the paving is. For the reasons outlined, it is recommended that the application be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Susan House? I remind everyone, and you're aware of this, that this is on YouTube and you are now visible. And once you start talking to that microphone, we can hear you as well.
Good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of the Gatehill Residents Association. You have received a handout with photographs of the magnificent TPO oak tree in the frontage of the property known as Gatehurst. This tree contributes to the special character of the estate. The application in question is part retrospective. The hard landscaping has been done, but the minimum 25% soft landscaping is still to be completed. Back in 2012, permission was granted for extensive building work at this property. A professional arboricultural report was submitted by the applicant and accepted by the council as part of this process. The tree protection method statement, an extract of which is marked as number 2 in your other handout, shows the agreed root protection area of the TPO oak tree, the blue circular line. This line is approximately 5 metres beyond the indicative crown spread, which is the green line. And you can see from extract number 1 just how much of the frontage was soft landscaping and how little was non-permeable before the building work commenced. The applicant's arboriculturalist report states that the existing drive will either be retained or will be replaced by permeable materials suitable for use in a root protection area. He went on to add that any replacement hard surface within the root protection area will also be permeable. This is what the council accepted and agreed to. And the council also added a landscaping condition which required the developer to submit a landscaping plan prior to making amendments to the frontage. Well, what has actually happened is the developer has paved over around 85% of the root protection area with non-permeable blocks in direct contradiction of the instructions of his own specialist. This action is also in contravention of Condition 7 of the planning consent and Condition 7 of the planning consent for an approved amendment. The paving over of the frontage with non-permeable bricks is also contrary to the council's own paving front garden guidance sheet from the council's website. Now, I've printed off a copy here. I'm sure that members of the committee are familiar with this and the contents of this guidance sheet, and don't worry, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to try and circulate this. However, for the benefit of the meeting, I will read the opening statement, if I may. To replace over 5 square metres of garden with paving, you do not have to apply for planning permission to do this, provided that A, the surface is permeable, or B, that water is collected and directed to a permeable area. If it does not meet either of these criteria, planning permission is necessary. Even if it is a replacement of existing hard surfacing, permission is unlikely to be granted. So that's what the council's website shows everybody. The GRA has already submitted incontrovertible evidence that the blocks are not permeable blocks, and perhaps I should just say a little more about that. We took photographs of the blocks and the packaging that the blocks were coming out of, which we submitted to the council, first of all in January and then again in April. And several other reputable builders who have visited the site have also said that the blocks are not permeable. So, has water been collected and directed to a permeable area? Well, no. When the officer visited the site this week, I'm sure that they will have noted that the downpipes on the property are directed straight into the drains, not into the soft landscaping. The property is at the top of a hill with a downward slope, so surface water flows away from the tree. Additionally, the slope of the driveway is away from the house to the road, which ensures that surface water is directed straight into the drains. This will, of course, not only deprive the tree of water, but will also contribute to the risk of flooding lower down the road. In July 2016, 2 houses on the estate were severely flooded when the drains could not cope with the high volume of surface water, and the GRA seeks to ensure that no additional strain is placed on the drains so that nothing like this happens again. So to summarise, the new enlarged driveway neither A, has a permeable surface, nor B, collects and directs water to a permeable area. The plans which you are being asked to approve tonight simply state blocks, block paving and edging. The plans do not state whether the blocks are permeable or non-permeable. Maybe there have been conversations behind the scenes, but the only thing which is enforceable is what is in writing on the plans. The council is legally obligated to protect TPO trees and has policies to reduce the risk of flooding. Therefore, the Gatehill Residents Association requests the refusal of this application. Thank you.
Do members have any questions? I'm just getting some checks done up here for a second or two, as you might guess. Because I had already spotted something a minute ago, but I just want to double check. Because I can't, the word permeable, the reports all refer to permeable, as does the addendum, which on that basis the world does look okay, but the plan that I can see, I'm finding the words in a minute, but we'll get there. Anybody got any other questions? The water one I'm going to pick up with officers in a moment as well. I've got the two key bits of this written down. Nope. Okay, I think we're good. Anyone here on behalf of the agent or the applicant? No? Are you...
I'm on behalf of the applicant, but I wasn't prepared. I don't know what the protocol is.
You have an option to speak for up to 5 minutes if you so wish. Up to you entirely. If you don't wish to, we'll let it go. If you do wish to, it's your right, so I'm happy to. But we do need a name for the records.
Okay, my name is Joel, Joel Phillips, with 2 L's.
Okay.
And I act on behalf of the agent.
Oh, microphone, sorry, I'd forgotten that
Sorry.
some people know the protocols, yeah.
Did you catch my name?
Yeah, we
Okay.
did, but this is just so that when it goes out on the YouTube, everyone can follow it.
Okay. So I'll just repeat. My name is Joel Phillips, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant who's away. I put a call in yesterday morning, to the planning officer to find out, have we heard anything from the committee, have we got a date? And he said, no, but it's tomorrow. So I wasn't aware. None of us were aware it was today. So I've come unprepared, but all I can say is, long story short, we were instructed because a building team prior had built the house not in accordance to how the building inspector required it. So they were looking for another building team. So they approached me, and we took over the existing mess, as it were. We saw the plans, we saw the drawings, and we continued. We built the house, we did the patio, and then naively we did the drive. Okay, so now the drive is virtually completely block paving, unaware that there needs to be there was landscaping rules or anything like that. Fast forward 3 weeks, we get the GRA knocking on their door saying, are you aware you need 25%, plus you need to have a certain gap for the drive to get access into the property. I wasn't aware. So a couple of the guys from the GRA came along and said, first things first, you need to put a drain. There was no drain. So we dug the whole thing up at our expense, put drains in, so all the water could soak away into the drains, into the manhole. So that was alleviated. I said, you happy with it? Yes, but we need to measure up to find out if there's 25% landscaping here. We instructed a surveyor, independent surveyor, and he came, measured, did this half a circle and showing all this. This was a later one. He came back, and when it was measured, he was actually incorrect. It was like 23%. Cut a long story short, we instructed this lady, landscape artist, and it came out to be about 28%. We approached the GRA. The GRA came down. We drew the lines. Are you happy with this? Yes, we're happy with that. The first meter at the front belonged to the GRA. And what the original surveyor had done is included that 1 metre within the 25, and that's what went wrong. So we enlarged it, and yet they still weren't happy. We made it to the point where all 3 of them were here on site. We measured with the blue line. We gave them an extra bit on the side. Nothing else was mentioned. And I said, are you happy? 100% yes. Are you going to withdraw your petition? Yes. Yes.
I'm not going to come on.
Yes. There was a conversation to say, we're happy now with the verge at the front. We are 100% happy. We're happy with the 25%. Nothing else was mentioned about anything else. And so, fast forward to today. The application was recommended for approval, and I can only go on behalf of a specialist who's recommended for approval. I noticed the addendum stating that they went this week as well, and they're happy. We've done everything we possibly can to please the GRA, and here we are today.
Okay, can I ask you one question? Is the paving that has been installed, is that permeable?
3/4 of it's permeable. The bit on the right-hand side is all permeable. The bit on the left, it's a definition of permeable because when water falls on a stone, it's going to fall through a gap. So what's a definition of permeable? The underneath of it is sand, type 1, and when we took over this, we weren't aware that the previous drive was solid concrete all the way down the left. Solid concrete with tarmac over the top. And so if you look at previous history, the whole left-hand side was solid concrete and tarmac. And so on that basis, we took it upon ourselves as thinking, well, we're taking all the concrete away and the slab away, and we put type 1, sand, and then the blocks on top.
Councillor Higgins.
Just, is this your first building project in Hillingdon?
No, it's not my first, but when I say I project manage, the owner I know personally, so I helped him out. He's an estate agent, I know him personally, and he said, look, my office is in town, can you help me? And it was literally an SOS, so I've got a building team who I instructed to do the work.
So this will be correctly, the owners are estate agents?
Yes, the owner is an estate agent. Yes.
And he doesn't know about planning regulations? I just find it a bit...
No, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. He's been through a 3 years of nightmare with these cowboy builders. With respect to
the GRA,
yes.
Unfortunately, they're not the authority.
I agree.
When something happened, wouldn't you thought it would be advisable did you contact the planning department? That's what I'm asking.
I know. Hindsight is a fantastic thing. I wish at the time we had found this information out.
Councillor Flynn.
Can I just ask, you referred to the fact that you were aware that... Oh, sorry, that doesn't sound good. Sorry, you referred to the fact you're aware that council officers, landscaping officers and tree officers visited the property. I was just wondering if you had any conversations with them at all?
Not at all. I was only aware when I saw this addendum that they were there this week. I've never met the planning officers who've been on site.
The council's tree officer visited at request of the head of planning today to get us as much up-to-date information as we possibly could as to what was going on. So it was a short notice visit. But it was arranged deliberately to try and give us as much information as possible. That's what we were up to today. Committee? No? Okay, thank you very much. Helpful. On the basis, let me get this question right. On the basis of what has been said to us on behalf of the applicant, who has instructed the building team, does that meet our definition of permeable if it has been installed in the way it has been described?
Yeah, I spoke to the landscape officer earlier, and what he explained to me is that permeability, the way he would explain it, is not necessarily the pavers themselves, it's how it's constructed. So usually you would dig out a foot, maybe more, put in hardcore, put in sand on top, the type 1 sand as the gentleman explained, and then the pavers on top, so that when it rains or what have you, it percolates through the gaps where the sand is in between the pavers and will go through the ground. Now, the concern, if it was, for example, put on top of the concrete that was there before, that would be non-permeable because the water would have nowhere to go. It would just hit the concrete below and then would go towards the street. So yes is the answer to your question.
The answer. If it's been installed as it has been described to us, that would fit our definition of permeable. Correct. Although, of course, the plan doesn't actually say permeable. So I'll come for the description on that in a moment. It would have been helpful had it. From our visits conducted recently, where is the water being discharged to, and are we happy with where that is going?
Yeah, you can actually see on the photos that the GRA have provided. If you look on photo 4 and 5, and even photo 3, you can see the gully running to the front, at the front of the property along, and as the I haven't seen it to see exactly where it discharges, but usually these will discharge into a manhole somewhere, wherever it is on that driveway.
And that is an acceptable way to deal with
that's how it's done, yes.
Right. So, Councillor Higgins.
Oh dear. The question is permeable or not permeable? What the officer does describe to me is fine, except I can understand that. But unfortunately, it seems to be different to the leaflet that was presented just a few minutes ago in a petition, stating slightly something different. My problem here is that without digging it up or looking underneath the blocks, how do we know that this is so we have, let me just get this quite clear. We have an applicant who's an estate agent who knows the planning department. We have a builder that's building this borough that also knows the planning department, and they didn't contact the planning department. They decided to have a discussion with the GRA about a situation. I'm a bit miffed here, to be quite honest. It's very simple. We have regulations that we ask.
Yeah, but I think the key question where we've got to ask ourselves is, if this is permeable as defined by us, and we have been told if it is installed in the way it's been described, it is, it therefore meets the landscaping condition and therefore can be discharged. Now, what the builder and the applicant and anybody else did or didn't do almost becomes a side issue. Now, if the only way, if it is considered, and we're discharging the condition tonight, we're not commenting on the ground, we have been told it's been done correctly, but if it transpires subsequently it hasn't, of course the council's options sit with the enforcement process. James, would you care to add?
Can I finish?
A possible way forward would be, I think the plans are acceptable. I think there may be a question mark as to whether we need an annotation on the plan.
Without a doubt we do.
To clarify effectively what was said by the applicant's agent. So you could delegate to me to get that specification written that basically has words to the effect of the plan you are approving is for a permeable surface. And then the benefit of that is if that is then approved, if it is felt that we should subsequently do a check or you get a hole dug or whatever the case might be, and it's not, we can then take enforcement action.
Okay. That seems very reasonable. Councillor Higgins.
Okay, so the planning department is agreeing that on the builder and the applicant that they have done the job correctly without us not checking. Is that correct?
We're kind of mixing up a bit here. This is my slight fear. Discharge of a planning condition and planning enforcement. We're kind of actually getting muddled up a bit this evening.
We wouldn't normally check. We would discharge a planning condition on the basis of plans supplied and the evidence supplied. We wouldn't necessarily go and check exactly how it's been done. If it transpires somebody hasn't done what they should have done, then of course we come back to
my last question. So what is the consequences that will happen if it hadn't been done properly? Is that we'd have a tree that was dead? Or is it just, do you see what I'm trying to say? How do we find out whether it's done by incorrectly? We've approved, let me go with my flow. We've approved the plans, that's fine, we've accepted the conditions and we've gone forward, and we're saying that that's for permeable blocks. My concern is that what are the consequences if it isn't permeable blocks on that tree or anything else?
If I can approach it in a slightly different way. So the council's landscape architect and tree officer have both said they're satisfied with the plan on the assumption it's permeable. Yeah. Because it's a TPO tree, we would have grounds to refuse or take enforcement action against anything that's not permeable.
Yeah. Let's say come back to the point, is at what point do we take action, when the tree is dead or when, do you see what I'm trying to say? The whole part of having the permeable thing is for the tree. Now, if we're taking the risk, and we're quite happy to take the risk, well, I'll go with the officer's recommendation, that as long as that tree will survive, I'm happy. But if that tree's not going to survive, because later on in the day it doesn't get enough water, etc., etc.
If I can refer committee to the officer comments, what we've said is it is considered that committee could approve the detailed submission, albeit I'm suggesting you might wish to delegate to me to clarify the plans further, and request an enforcement report be submitted to a future meeting. Because if you do that, then basically, enforcement's a part 2 discussion, which is a bit my slight concern at our discussion at the moment.
Yeah, well, we're not. I'm not taking that discussion any further because that's taking us into grounds that we don't have. So I would, on the basis of what's before us, unless anyone's got anything else, I would suggest this looks like it can be approved, subject to us delegating to the head of planning to get an amended plan that clearly says we are approving a permeable surface. Because at the moment it says block paving, and if that's what we approve, then that's a bit dangerous, in my view. Councillor Farley.
Thank you, Chair. I just, going back to the issue with the tree, the drainage on this is going down the road, so it's heading downhill, so it's away from the tree, is that, as I understand it?
Yes.
It is. So how is the tree getting the water? Is it coming from the adjacent property? If what we're hearing is that potentially there's concrete underneath on the left-hand side where the tree is, how is it being fed?
What we're being told by the applicant is effectively it can get water through the surface. And that's where
we've been hearing that there's concrete.
And that's, that's the issue. But he's saying that's been taken up and it's not there. So, but we can't prove that either way. Councillor Oswald.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think the question should be, do we think the tree's been damaged because of the concrete base that was laid before? I think that should be the question, really. Everything else, as far as the report's concerned and the permeable surfaces, I'm quite happy with that. All I would ask is, do we think that the tree may have been damaged because of the surface that was underneath or what was laid previously, concrete?
There's nothing in the tree officer's report to say he's unhappy with the tree, is there?
No. Again, I spoke to him previously, and what he explained is if you look at photo 2 on the leaflet provided by the GRA, you'll see the previous condition of the driveway, and that the tarmac over the concrete was right up to the tree. And in fact, if anything, the current, or what has been installed, is actually, the tree actually has more sort of earth around it, if you like, than it did previously. And to answer your question, Councillor, I don't know whether it was damaged, but I would imagine that the landscape officer would have noted that it is damaged. I mean, had the concrete been damaging it, I presume you would see that, and that the tree is dying or has issues.
All right, thanks very much. Yeah, that asked and answered. I'm quite happy with that, and I think they would have noticed if there was anything wrong with the tree. I'll move the officer's recommendation, Chairman.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Flynn, are you going to second or is your question?
Yes. On balance, I will second. I think it just needs to be caveated with the fact that we do incorporate the officer comments in the addendum sheet around the enforcement report.
That's what you will be
seconding.
seconding.
And I would hope, and I appreciate you can't, for obvious reasons, say when such an enforcement report will be submitted. However, obviously, given the weather we're having at the moment, I would urge that is done promptly for the sake of that tree.
I would urge, the situation be kept under active review to make sure.
But on those grounds, I am happy to second.
And with the head of planning being delegated to make sure the plan clearly says non-permeable.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, I have a proposal, I have a second. All those in favour, please clearly show. Good. That's 7, and are you abstaining? 7 and 1. Right, that's good. That's that one done. I then move to item 8, land at Little Acre, Harefield. I would remind members there was a revised plan on this one circulated earlier today. So if you haven't got it for any reason, shout now, because it has an important change on it. Have you got it? Yeah. You've not got it?
No, sorry, Chairman.
It should be on the table, hopefully. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. There's an important change on it which is relevant to what we're determining tonight. Right, Matt, could you take me through it, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Current application is land at Little Acre, Northwood. I'll just show the members the plan. There's the access to the site, and the site is here. In fact, I'll go straight to the addendum actually on this one because that plan's popped up. So the plan that's been circulated is actually the correct red line and blue line plan. The one that was put in the plans pack and is in the presentation is actually incorrect. This relates to, there's 2 other applications on the site that officers are considering at the moment, and this one shows a temporary mobile home. That isn't there, and that isn't part of this application. That's another application was erroneously added to this presentation. Just going back, the application seeks permission to regularise the proposal as carried out for the erection of a single-storey building for use as stabling and a tack room feed store with 2 parking spaces. Now, the site is existing stables. In essence, they're just looking to extend them. You've got the existing plans there, existing elevations, and here you've got, you'll see, the extensions here, so you can see it's just a longer stable block. The applicants have advised that there is a need for breeding mares and stallions to be accommodated in a separate location to the existing horses. I wonder why. And the building is considered to represent an appropriate form of development within the green belt and would not detract from the rural character and appearance of the area. Furthermore, it would not result in the loss of residential amenity. And for the reasons outlined, it's recommended that the application be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Do we have any photos of it?
Oh, sorry, I do apologise. Yes, there are actually. There's the aerial.
Built. It'd be good to see it.
You can see it in the distance there. And that is the...
That's really been built,
Yes, it's been extended, so it's retrospective. You can see it there.
Fairly common event round here.
You can't really tell.
Well, we've done that debate, Councillor. It does appear from those photos that it does actually fit in very well, actually.
Yeah.
Would be a take on that. Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Being a fan of all things equestrian and the fact it seems a suitable location and a suitable design, I have no issues with this and happy to go with officer's recommendation.
If your colleague agrees with you to your right, maybe about a second.
I could know. There was officer is absolutely correct. There was some sort of home made.
Yep.
That's
been removed.
It's been removed. And as long as that is one of the, I'm sure it is.
It's this plan you're approving which hasn't got it on.
And then I'm happy with that.
Obviously,
if that comes back,
that's another report, and we'll work on that if and when it appears.
We have got conditions to stop that, haven't we? Wouldn't it be advisable?
I mean, you'd only be approving the plan before you, and sort of mobile homes and the like would require planning permission in any case. I don't think you need to add conditions for something that would, in fact, require planning. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Well, it was there before.
No, you were given an incorrect plan.
No, I've seen it.
Well, there isn't. Yeah, but you're not approving a plan on this site.
No, I appreciate that. But when I drove past, I thought I saw that.
Yeah. If I can explain, so there are other applications in the pipeline on this site that will come before this committee, but what we wanted to make sure is that you only had a plan for the stables, not the agent trying to mix in other plans.
Okay, that's fine, but in the last committee, let's make this quite clear, we were told that when we approved an application that had a basement or whatever, and we approved, and we didn't object it, but we didn't say that you're happy with this, that those do not relate. No, I know, it's the one in front of us. All I'm just trying to say is that we're approving what's in front of us, not something that's going to come to us.
And that's why the plans were changed.
That's fine.
To make it absolutely clear, we were not approving...
Then I will gladly second that.
Good, because the report didn't reference anything else. Councillor Farley, before we proceed.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about the frequency of the movement of horses between the two sites, if there is going to be movement between the two sites. So if you've got sort of things happening between them, it's the agenda item actually sort of talks about the traffic officer has been there to make sure that it shouldn't be an issue. But I'm wondering whether or not there is what the frequency is now, if it's likely to change, and what the speed limit is on that road between the two sites.
I don't know if we know the answers, and also I don't know, it's entirely relevant, but I don't know do we know the answers? Does any highways commentary?
Well, Chair, I can say that obviously the scale of increase is quite minimal in the scale of operation, so we wouldn't anticipate a very high level of frequency of movement. So
does that satisfy your question? Yeah, good. We are proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please clearly show me. Thank you. That's unanimous. Good. We now move to number 8. Now, this is another retrospective. The important bit of this I will, before officers do it, draw to your attention, is page, is it 29, where we have the inspector's decision in relation to this site, because that gives a very clear steer. Inspector's appeal decision, page 27 onwards, gives you very clear information about how he viewed what has gone on here, which obviously is a major material planning consideration. Matt, can you give us the rest of it?
I can do. Thank you, Chairman. So it's 9 acres on Aspie Lane in Carew Road northward. The site is back here through this lane. Now what has happened is there was a permission for various extensions, and the extensions that were built were not in accordance with the approved plans. Enforcement action was taken. The enforcement notice was appealed, and what the inspector found, so these are the proposed plans. I'll show you the photos, actually, might be easier. There we go. So the inspector found that the extensions in themselves were acceptable in terms of scale and bulk, etc., and the appearance. What he objected to, or she, I can't remember which one it was to these windows in this gable here, in that gable there, and to this dormer window. So what the proposal before you is, I'll go back to I'll flick through the rest of the photos so you can have an appreciation of what the house looks like. Oops, excuse me. I'll just go back to the proposed. So you can see these sort of church-style sort of windows in the gables and this dormers there. If I just show the proposed rear elevation, you will note that they've removed those big windows. You can actually still see them outlined. They're just showing where they were, and they're just standard windows in the gables. And this is actually now a Velux window. So that whole large dormer will be taken out, and the big windows will be taken out. And we've also, on the addendum, adding a condition just to ensure that that window is obscure glazed, because the inspector made a reference to that. So we've looked at that, and we think that that's acceptable, and it meets the findings of the inspector, and for those reasons recommend that the application be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, through you, Chairman. I mean, it's not northward, but, you know, it's quite a clever idea. I'm surprised how an inspector can decide that she doesn't like that, and we've given her other stuff, or him other stuff, and they think that's acceptable. So I really am baffled. I don't have any issues about it, really. I quite like that, to be honest, but I'll go...
Will you go with the Oxford report?
Yeah, I will do.
Councillor Flynn?
Thank you. I think we'd be on a sticky wicket if we went up against the inspector here, so I'm very happy to second.
I'm sure we've all got different views on it, but the inspector's view is clearly the important one, because that's the one that we would be subject to an appeal if we did. We are, well, I didn't say that. Proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That's unanimous. Right, that concludes part one. I now ask for the YouTube feed to be switched off, please, and once I have that confirmed, we'll move into part two.